Hi, Dave here. Welcome to video 2 of the 5-part video series on chapter 17. Here we're going to go through and actually create our first GUI. And here I'm actually showing you a J-frame window. Notice the title border with no title and 3 buttons at the top, the standard 3 buttons that decorate a window. A minimize, a maximize, and a close button. So here in the video we're going to go through actually create one of these frames, actually create a button to put on the frame. We're going to create an event listener to listen to us clicking the event, and the event handler handling the message and the event that's sent to it to exit the program. So a simple window on a Swing GUI can consist of an object of the J-frame class. Now a J-frame object includes a border that I just showed you and the usual 3 buttons for minimizing, changing the size of, and closing the window. The J-frame class is found in the javax.swing package. And the way we can create a simple instance of a J-frame is shown here, where we have the variable first window of the class J-frame, or the type J-frame, equal to new J-frame, and we passed it no arguments. A J-frame can have components added to it, such as buttons, menus, and text labels. And these components can be programmed for action. And the way we add one of these components to the J-frame is calling the add method. So here on our J-frame first window instance, we're calling the add method, and we're giving it an instance of an N button. This is a J button that we're going to create shortly. And it can be made visible on the J-frame using the setVisible method. So here we're saying to the first window J-frame instance, call your method setVisible and give it the Boolean value true. Now if you don't call the setVisible method, your program will run, but you will never see your window. This seems to drive students nuts every semester because you wrote your program, there's no errors, but you're not seeing anything. Most likely, this is because you have not set it to visible. So here's the first example. We're going to do this twice. And this is not my preferred way of doing it, but it'll get us started, and it's the order that the text covered the creation of a GUI. So here we're importing 2 packages. We're importing the javax swing package to get the J button. We're also importing it to get the J-frame class. And in our class called First Swing Demo, we start off with defining a couple of constants. One for the width of our GUI, 300 pixels, and the height of 200 pixels. So width comes first, that's going to be in the X direction, and we have height that's going to be in the Y direction. We have a main method. We create our J-frame. We set its size to 300 wide, 200 high. We set the default close operation to be do nothing on close. This means when we click the X button, what should we do? Now, do nothing on close, that's hard to remember. So the best way to remember any option is to always use JavaDoc. Here's my plug for JavaDoc again. If we went out to the class J-frame, we could scroll down and we could see that, okay, one option is to exit on close, and some other options are shown here as dispose on close, do nothing on close, or hide on close. We'll talk more about these options, but JavaDoc is your friend. Next, we're going to actually create the button. And the button's going to have the label click to end button. And you see it here in the GUI where the button took up the entire window. After we created the button, we're going to create this listener. We haven't attached it yet, but we're going to create a listener that's going to be able to handle the event that gets fired when we click the button. So here we're creating a variable button ear of type ending listener, and we're calling this constructor and setting this reference. I now tell my button, hey, I want to register the button ear listener with you. So I call the add action listener method on the button and give it button ear as its argument. So my button now knows about my listener. I need to put the button on the JFrame. So I tell the JFrame instance to add the button. So the button is on the window. Now I need to show the window. So I ask the JFrame to set visible true. So let's go look at how to create a listener. So I'm importing the action event, which is a parameter to the action perform method I'm going to have to write. And I'm also importing the java.awt.event.actionListener class. Now remember, for a button, we typically want to have an action listener. So I'm going to implement action listener, and because action listener is an interface of one method, and that method is action performed, I need to write the body of that method. And in this case, I'm just going to tell it to exit, close everything down. Now earlier in video 1, I talked about the action event class and mentioned that there were two key methods that you should know about, and you should look at that video or go review the Java doc on action event. Now JFrame, we just created a second ago, we called new JFrame with no arguments. Because we gave it no arguments, no title came up here on the JFrame. If we wanted to, we could have supplied a string as an argument to JFrame, and we would have gotten a title. We call set default close operation with JFrame hide on close. We could have given it do nothing on close, disclose on close, which would be just close the JFrame that you clicked on. Or we could have set exit on close, which would have shut down the entire operation. There's a JFrame method that we called the set size. That's how we gave the width and the height to the window. There are other methods. Set title. If we didn't want to pass the title via the JFrame constructor, there's a method that we could call to explicitly set it. We saw how we called the add method to add our button to the JFrame. We're going to talk about how to set the layout in video 3. We'll look at how to set a menu bar on the JFrame in video 4. And as part of the exercise, I'm going to ask you to play with the set location. So instead of having the window automatically appear in the upper left corner of our screen, we can adjust the X and Y offsets from the upper left corner of our screen by using set location. When we gave the width and the height, we did it as a pixel. And a pixel is the smallest unit of space on a screen. Both the size and position of swing objects are measured in pixels. The more pixels on a screen, the greater the screen resolution. In a high resolution screen, a fixed size has many pixels. Therefore, each pixel is very small. Like in the Mac lab, the resolution on those new iMac 27s is phenomenal. A low resolution screen of fixed size has fewer pixels. Therefore, each one is much larger. So therefore, a 2-pixel figure on a low resolution screen is going to look larger than a 2-pixel figure on a high-res screen. I looked up on Google, and it said that the most popular resolution today is 1366 by 768. Fun fact. Okay, buttons. Now we had one button on our JFrame. And a button object is created from the class JButton. The argument to the JButton constructor is the string that you want to appear on the button when it is displayed. So here in the constructor, we're calling new JButton. We wanted the string to be displayed on the button to be click to end program. Now after we create the button, it's not going to automatically appear on the JFrame. We have to explicitly tell the JFrame I'm adding it to you. Now action listeners and action events. Clicking a button, we know, fires an event. And the event object's going to be sent to another object called a listener. This means that a method in the listener object is going to be invoked automatically. And when it gets invoked, it's going to be passed the event object as its argument. In order to set up this relationship, a GUI program must do two things. It must specify for each button which objects are its listeners, and it must add those to the button with add-action-listener. It must define the methods that will be invoked automatically when the event is sent to the listener. So here we're creating an instance of our ending listener, and we're setting it equal to the variable button here of type ending listener. So we created the instance of our listener, and then we're going to add it or register it with the button. We do that with the add action listener method. Now, different kinds of components require different kind of listener classes to handle the events they fire. Earlier in video 1, I showed the window listener, for example, with 7 different methods. But for most of Chapter 17, we'll focus primarily on Action Listener Interface. And the Action Listener Interface has one method heading that must be implemented, and that's the public void action performed method that takes an action event argument. So here I'm showing the definition that we just gave in ending listener for the action perform method. We had a simple one-line system.exit 0, and that was just to shut down the entire program. Now when the user clicks the end button, an action event is going to be sent to the action listener for that button that we registered. The ending listener object button here is the action listener for our end button. And the action listener button here received the action event into the parameter E to its action perform method. Now we're not doing anything with E right now, but we could look at, say, called get source or get action command on it if we wanted some information about the event. Now a better version of the first window makes it a derived class of JFrame. This is really the way to go. The constructor in the new first window class is going to start by calling the constructor of its parent class. And we do that by calling super. And this ensures that any initialization that is normally done for all objects of type JFrame will be done. And in general, almost all initiation for the first window is going to be in the constructor for the class. And we're also going to note that an anonymous object is used as the action listener for end button. So we start off, we imported the J button in JFrame, same as we did before. But note here, we're going to extend JFrame. So we're going to be an is-a relationship, not a has-a relationship. And this is typically the way to go. We want to inherit all the functionality of a JFrame in our class first window. In our constructor, we're going to do all the work to construct the GUI. So we start off by calling super, calling the JFrame our parent's constructor. We're going to set the size. We're going to set our title now explicitly. We had no title before. This time we're going to have a title, first window class. We're going to set our default close operation, again to do nothing on close. We're creating our J button. We're giving a label to the J button, click to end program. We're going to create our anonymous listener in one statement and automatically add it to the button. And then we're going to add the button to the JFrame. In our main method, we'll create an instance of our first window. And then we only need to set it visible. And setting it visible typically is not done in a constructor. By setting it someplace else, it makes our constructors more flexible. We might not always want to see the window constructed at the time of construction. we might want to bring it up and display it only on demand. Okay, that concludes this lecture. I now have a video for you to do as an exercise where you'll have a chance to create a button or two and create a couple of listeners. Thank you.